And greetings. Welcome to the Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith video channel. I'm Salvador Cordova. This is an impromptu report and encouragement to my Christian brothers and sisters, especially. I had, last night I was praying because the world situation is getting to be a little scary. We could be on the verge of a larger global conflict. There's a remote chance of nuclear war, God forbid. Jesus had said that there will be wars and rumors of wars, and the way that I read the gospel is that before his return, things could get really ugly, very painful, and scary. This grates against the ordinary human wish for happily ever after on this earth. But the Lord has told us that our hope is in heaven, and that is the eternal safe place, and where there will be no pain. But in this world we will have trouble. And something that I have felt on my heart is, if the Christian faith is just a useful delusion to kind of get us through the day, then, well, okay, that is a small comfort like anesthesia. But if it is fundamentally true, then the comfort is real, and it is real hope. It's not just some movie with a happy ending to make you temporarily feel good about reality. And so as I was distressed last night, I started turning to scientific study. I felt the Lord could give encouragement. Real faith is inspired by facts, not just forcing delusions upon our mind. There are many ways that we can generate faith that's not really based on facts, just through social pressure and self-delusion. And I get how that can be done, but something deep inside will tell you that maybe it's not grounded in truth. Faith that's grounded in truth is stronger. Now, I've been an old earth. I had believed in evolution, then was an old earth creationist and young earth creationist. That journey has been 40 years. Every day, overall, the case for an intelligent designer has gotten stronger. The case for special creation by a miraculous process, and then also the case for a young cosmos, a young creation, has gotten stronger, to the extent that we have physical evidence that the universe, the solar system, the fossil record, life had emerged recently, and particularly the design of the world emerged by a miraculous process rather than ordinary natural processes. This would confirm the Christian faith. The reason for that is, if the world is young, then that would support an interpretation, a literal interpretation of the genealogy of Jesus Christ in Luke chapter 3 and also Matthew chapter 1, which would suggest then that these genealogies are historical and can be read as such, and that they are inspired by God. It would set the Christian religion above any other religion. The great physicist and Christian minister John Polkinghorne said, what separates Christianity from all other religions is it makes bold historical claims. And perhaps the most bold historical claim is that the earth is young, that there was Noah's flood. A persistent problem for young earth creationism has been the problem of radiometric dating. You have multiple camps in the creationist community that says it's unreliable and There are times they were saying even carbon-14 wasn't to be trusted. The issue is more subtle than that. It may be reliable if we have better models of the origin of atoms, what we call more properly nucleosynthesis, and um, and changes in nuclear structure. As I was, kind of torn in between old Earth creationism and young Earth creationism, what began to change my mind on this is after I studied cosmology and I realized how outrageous some of the theories were, where the speed of light was violated by orders of 1,000 to millions in the inflation model, and therefore even variable speed of light theories were proposed. I said everything's now on the table. The playing field is now level. The young Earth creation model is no more outrageous than the Big Bang model. I mean, if the Big Bang model is now invoking movement of things that are effectively movement, what they really call expansion of space and separation between objects faster than the speed of light, or even variable speed of light theories, then the distant starlight problem solved by, like, say, mechanisms of variable light speed are not so outrageous after all. So the next frontier, a little bit lower on the scale, is radiometric dating. When I was taking solid state physics to save my grade in the class, I took a gamble. And said, I'll report on electrical and chemical means of changing nuclear structure. That was outrageous. But what I did is I cited peer-reviewed papers. The significance of this then is that nuclear supposed daughter elements in a nuclear decay process might be attributed to some other process. And I had surveyed lots of things in secular peer-reviewed papers that have been virtually ignored, but they are accepted by the experts, by the editors, thankfully. So the first thing that I found last night was this. Let me share it, if I can share it here. Nature Scientific Reports. Nature Scientific Reports. Let me expand it here. This is an artificial method of, and that's the title there. Unfortunately, I don't immediately see the date. Looks like it's 2022, so this is recent. Transmutation of long-lived fission products in an advanced nuclear energy system. And it mentions something called a photonuclear process. So what they basically have described is a process to accelerate nuclear decay. That's a big deal. But this has actually been known for quite a long time. But it's tying into mechanisms now that are, we're beginning, I'm seeing that the young Earth creationists may have an avenue to connect the dots. All right, so there's this photonuclear process. That means photons. Photons can accelerate nuclear decay. This is of extreme importance in taking nuclear waste and then kind of making it not so dangerous. We can accelerate the decay and then dispose of it. So this is practical science now that has bearing on young Earth creationism. We can accelerate nuclear decay. Some of the things that Erica and others who are evolutionists, I've argued that their objections to the young Earth accelerated nuclear decay model were actually pretty good, and the heating problem, because there are actually several accelerated nuclear decay models. They're actually finding fault in one of them. They were absolutely correct in finding fault in what I would call the isotropic model, where there's accelerated nuclear decay across the universe. That would be disastrous. And I've been trying to encourage young Earth creationists, please don't be so dismissive of the other side. Listen to them. Sometimes they have criticisms you need to think about. What this scientific report does is we now may have localized accelerated nuclear decay, and I'll give you the mechanisms. It's lightning, and I'll talk about that shortly. Lightning can create antimatter. There's another Nature scientific report I stumbled on recently, actually last night, but it was written in the last 4 years. So when you have localized nuclear decay, that means then that we don't have to presume that they're like uranium isotopes and other isotopes throughout the Earth that will just cause an incineration if we have an isotropic decay. A localized decay can avoid that problem. It will also explain the origin of a lot of the supposed daughter products. This is a big deal, guys. And yes, we should be not too dogmatic. I will tell you also, the last 2 weeks, and I've been telling people, really my love was physics. That's where I had a lot of my training. Dr. Sanford recruited me for 7 years to do biology. I was very honored to work with him. It means a lot to me that he felt I was talented enough to make a contribution in the field. And the Lord has provided that I've been published now in secular venues, and God willing will be continue to be published in secular venues in biology. I had the privilege of being published with Joe DeWeese. Joe DeWeese released a topoisomerase video. It's published in a reference work that's in Springer Nature. It's critical of evolutionary theory, and I think I'm appreciating the significance of the material that I and my co-authors put together. So this is moving forward. So as I started to return to kind of the physics question, as I studied the angular momentum problem, one that is well acknowledged in this book, Solar System Evolution. This is a secular book that was very anti-creationist. As I revisited this, I'm just like amazed that these theories hold any water, because it acknowledged the angular momentum problem. And as I looked at this, I said the special creation of the galaxies, the star systems, the solar system, the planetary system makes far more sense. It just looks more and more ridiculous upon examination that this could evolve by a natural process. And I don't think that problem is going away. It's going to only get worse the more we study it. And there are always whispers in my undergrad and graduate studies among the faculty and students that there's really something wrong with the mainstream theories. This is on the order of, it's getting to look like the problem of abiogenesis. They're just basic mechanical problems with this. So if you've ever seen the figure skaters, when they're spinning, as they pull, their arms and legs are extended, but then when they pull it in, they spin a lot faster. That's conservation of angular momentum. What happens is the sun isn't rotating fast enough. And there are all sorts of problems with where did the angular momentum originate? How did it start spinning to begin with? When you have gravitational attraction and you just have a cloud, it's going to tend to go like that. There's no reason, why should it start spinning? I mean, I've looked at some of this, and it's like, well, there are some problems in saying that the cloud starts spinning. And they've tried to put this they tried to throw this on the initial angular momentum from the Big Bang. This stuff does just not make sense. And you can also see the problem emerges in the kind of the twist of the galaxies. That the twist shouldn't remain there. They've postulated all sorts of exotic mechanisms and come up with explanations, and then their counter explanations with modified Newtonian dynamics, dark matter, and Carmeli cosmologies, all this stuff. And I'm just like, that spin is a problem. That spin is a problem. So are the orbits of the planets in the solar system, because they may generally be in a plane, but they're tilted in different ways. And the orbits are not circularized. They should be over time. And there are just any number of problems. As I read that book, as I was reading it again, I'm just like, the solar system was created. This conflicts with Hugh Ross's views of a Big Bang. And the Big Bang is in big trouble as a model. There are whispers. I've sensed it when I was in graduate school. It's like some of this just does not make sense. And just as James Tour was hammering on the abiogenesis problem, I'm seeing a similar thing with mainstream models for cosmology. So then the question is, how about more locally? What about radiometric dating? So the first thing is, there are other mechanisms for nucleosynthesis than just plain old fusion. I had suspected that I'd looked into varieties of fusions. There's low temperature fusions for sure. One is called muon catalyzed fusion. You can actually look at it. That's not really what they would call cold fusion is such a misnomer. And we're beginning to understand things are a lot more subtle. You can synthesize nuclear elements without fusion. That's the photonuclear process. And that's why this recent paper in Nature, which I will cite, the nice thing, this one's not behind a paywall because they put it on archive, the Cornell archive, and you can find it. You can find it on the Cornell. You just Google it, you'll find it. So this is the report in 2017. So I gave the 2022 paper that described a way to accelerate nuclear decay. This has been known. It's kind of been in the books, but it's not glamorous. Okay, so how do we generate a photonuclear process? You need very high energy photons. So a typical light photon is like I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's like on the order of a few electron volts or fractional electron volts. I think your X-ray machines can get up to like the kilo electron volts. An electron volt is, you can Google this, it is a measure of energy. So a watt second, when your light bulb runs for 1 second and it's at 100 watts, that's 100 watt seconds or 100 joules. Joules can be converted into electron volts, and that's a nice exercise. But just suffice to say, so each photon has a certain number of joules. It's better to use electron volts as a measure of the energy. The energy of the gamma rays that are needed to create photonuclear processes is on the order of million of electron volts. It's a lot stronger than the optical photons that we're able to see, and stronger than the X-rays or X-rays machines can make. But let me show you this here. Photonuclear reactions in lightning discovered from detection of positrons and neutrons. Photonuclear reactions in lightning discovered from detection of positrons and neutrons. For those who may not know, a positron is antimatter. Lightnings are causing are creating antimatter, which is just really cool. So let me read, why don't I just read the whole abstract here? So this is in 2017. Lightning and thundercloud are the most dramatic natural particle accelerators on the Earth. Relativistic electrons accelerated by electric fields therein emit Bremsstrahlung gamma rays, which have been detected at ground observations by airborne detectors, and as terrestrial gamma rays, gamma ray flashes from space. The energy of the gamma rays is sufficiently high to potentially invoke atmospheric photonuclear reactions, and I'll skip the symbols there, which would produce neutrons, eventually positrons, via beta plus decay of generated unstable radioactive isotopes, especially nitrogen-13. However, no clear observational evidence for the reaction has been reported to date. Here, we report the first detection of neutron and positron signals from lightning with a ground observation. During a thunderstorm on the 6th of February 2017 in Japan, a TGF-like intense flash, less than 1 millisecond, was detected at our monitoring sites 0.5 to 1.7 kilometers from the lightning. The subsequent initial burst quickly subsided with an exponential decay of 40 to 60 milliseconds, followed by a prolonged line emission at 0.511 mega electron volt, lasting for a minute. The observed decay time scale and spectral cutoff at approximately 10 mega electron volts of the initial emission are well explained with de-excitation gamma rays from the nuclei excited by neutron capture. I'll explain what that means. That means there could potentially be a transmutation event. Okay, the center energy of the prolonged line emission corresponds to the electron-positron annihilation, and hence is here conclusive indication of positrons, that is antimatter, produced after the lightning. Our detection of neutrons and positrons is unequivocal evidence that natural lightning triggers photonuclear reactions. No other natural event on Earth is known to trigger photonuclear reactions. The discovery places lightning as only the second known natural channel on Earth after atmospheric cosmic ray interaction, in which isotopes such as C13, C14, and nitrogen-15 are produced. This is a big deal, guys, because it has been proposed by the young Earth creationist Walter Brown that the piezoelectric effect can generate large amounts of electricity if there has been huge tectonic activity. As a matter of principle, because of, I think, things like quartz, when there is severe compression of various materials on the Earth through tectonic events, you will get huge amounts of electricity generated, aka lightning. So, Mr. Jetty asked, where do cosmic rays come from? Usually come from the sun. But now lightning is another alternative source for creating these high energy photons. So a photonuclear process is not, there could be in principle photonuclear processes that cause fusion, but you don't necessarily need to create fusion to create a photonuclear process. Okay, so some photonuclear processes may entail fusion, but a photonuclear process is not necessarily fusion. You can just build a Venn diagram of that and see what that is. So there's been a long discussion also about low energy nuclear reactions, which is unfortunately called cold fusion. There could be nuclear reactions that are not fusion. So it's entirely possible what has been called cold fusion is actually a total misnomer. There probably never was cold fusion. It could have been a different nuclear reaction. There's so many mechanisms where you can change the atom. You don't have to rely on fusion. Anything that can generate neutrons or these photonuclear capable gamma rays can induce nuclear transmutation. And it looks like that the distribution of daughter products in some of these synthesis experiments corresponds with the appearance of age. What I call the appearance of age. You would get you get similar proportions of parent and daughter products that would look consistent with the earth being old. But I don't think that's God being deceptive. Now that we have the mechanisms to explain it, it's like when you look at a pencil that's in water and it looks bent, it's not really bent. Once we have a scientific explanation for the illusion, we know that it's not God deceiving us. God has given us a means to explain why we have optical illusions, and they're not real. Same like for the mirage in the desert or for the appearance of geocentrism. So this is not a created appearance of age. We have a mechanism. We may be able to reconstruct why these isotopes have their particular distribution. So it is, it is. I've said maybe radiometric dating is not as unreliable, provided we have the right model of the initial conditions and the mechanisms thereafter. So what does this have to do with everyday life? As I said, to the extent we have evidence of a creator, and intelligent design has established that, we look at the world, it looks intelligently designed, but also cursed and in need of a savior. That there is the comfort we have a creator. It is the creator, the Christian God. Well, I believed in the Christian God when I was a theistic evolutionist and also an old earth creationist, but now more so as a young earth creationist, because if the solar system is young, if the earth is young, if the fossil record is young, this would tell us that we can read the Christian scriptures literally, and that we can view it as history. And this would be evidence that the Christian scriptures are indeed the word of God. And so the promises of the Christian faith for eternal life, despite the fact we could be facing Armageddon someday. And I do pray that Judgment Day is deferred, to kind of quote from the movie Terminator 2, Judgment Day is not today. It will happen, and it'll be the worst time on earth. There'll be no time like it or thereafter when it happens. It'll be gruesome, and I don't want to be around for that. Just in case people are wondering what my eschatology is, I'm kind of a pan-millennialist. It's like God will pan it out in the end. I'm not persuaded that I'm generally a classical premillennialist, or what they call historic premillennialist. I do believe in the millennial reign of Christ. I'm not dogmatic about that. However, I don't believe in a pre-tribulation rapture. I'm a post-tribber. And that's why I do hope the world situation improves and that we're not on our way to Armageddon anytime soon. And also for somewhat selfish reasons, not somewhat, definitely selfish reasons, because I want to be spared pain, but also I would like to have a chance to see the creationist model just continue moving forward. So this has been heartening news the last 2 weeks, as I've been reading some really sad reports. This is the time that creation science can contribute to building of the Christian faith and encouraging us. And it's kind of making sense of, for me at a personal level, why it has been valuable for me to study intelligent design first and then young earth creationism second. So I will have a video tonight, a live show with former young earth creationist and nuclear engineer Jordan Kareem. We're just going to go through basic stuff. It's not going to be a debate. I don't believe that debates are productive. There's no way you could settle and comb through all the relevant data in 1 hour. What ends up happening in some of these debates, it's like the problem of Brandolini's law. So you know, someone like Dave Farina can just spew garbage for 20 minutes, and then it would take James Tour 10 hours to refute it, not to mention 40 hours of maybe research on James Tour's part. And James Tour is one of the top chemists in the world. And that's why a short debate format doesn't work. It needs to be a very long, methodical study, combing through data. Therefore, a protracted discussion is going to be much more fruitful, where the two sides come together and say, okay, you know, I disagree with your position and you disagree with mine. Let's just comb through the data. Let's see what experiments or observations would need to be made and what results would have to come out from that to settle the issue. And then you don't have these vitriolic arguments if you're dealing with two good faith actors. And I think Jordan Kareem's a good faith actor. I've interacted with some bad faith actors, and they've been tossed from my channel. If they show up, I don't want to deal with them. I really lost. You know, I'm a generally nice guy, but I screamed at the top of my lungs at Mark Drysdale a few days ago. I calmly pointed out that origin of life researchers are now invoking multiple universes to explain that. And he said, I don't understand that. No biologist said that, which was wrong on his part, because I have I have links to peer-reviewed papers. And then I said, okay, I'll put it in the side chat right now. And I did. And I told him it's there. He denied it right when I posted it. And I said, they're links. I gave you the names of the authors. I gave you, you know, I provided links. And he kept still repeating, no one believes that. And he started just straw manning what the argument was. And about the second time I mentioned it, he just kept repeating and just insisting. I yelled at him. I was so mad. I said, dude, you know, he said, explain to me in one sentence what your, why this is a problem for origin of life or whatever. I'm just like, this is going to be a 3-hour discussion. It took me and Dr. James Carter, 2 hours to talk about one of the papers by Tamani. And I said, dude, you just don't want to learn. You know, I was thinking to myself, you don't want, I screamed at him. I said, I had enough. And then logical, plausible, probable read from the abstract and the first paragraph of Kunin's paper. And Kunin's like a top evolutionary biologist. And the guy was just not understanding, not giving it. He wouldn't stop talking over me. And I said, I'm done. You know, there's no reason for me to interact with such closed-minded people who think they know it all. You know, I was trying to help, and he's just closing his mind. So there are people I definitely will not talk to. There's absolutely no point. However, people like Jordan Kareem, Dapper Dinosaur, Erica, Dr. Dan, I can have conversations with, and also someone named John B. I was sent off. Dr. Sanford paid out of his own pocket to send me to school. to study about God's creation under evolutionists. And so tonight's show will be kind of a learning session for both Jordan Kareem and myself. My school, Johns Hopkins, actually doesn't do a lot of nuclear physics. And so they didn't actually teach nuclear physics in our school. I mean, there was a Nobel Prize awarded to one of our faculty members relatively recently, Adam Rice, on dark energy. But that, you know, that school is really more of a theoretical school. We don't do a lot of heavy and expensive experiments. You know, we don't have like particle accelerators and stuff on campus, or we're not, as far as I know, we don't have really a big investment or ties to these nuclear accelerators. So I'm going to have to learn some of the nuclear stuff kind of on the fly. God willing, my training, kind of the basic physics, will help me understand. So Jordan and I are probably going to just try to teach each other and just comb through the literature calmly. It might bore you all to death, but I think that this process will move the young fossil record, the young solar system, the young Earth model forward, and the reasons to be excited. So that's why I decided to do the stream. I was so excited as I was, you know, I went from despair about just the world situation, then to elation that God is providing us evidences that He's there and He's worked throughout history. So I just had to share that with you all this morning before I go off to work. And I'm already a little late, but okay. And anyway, take care and God bless you. Lord willing, I'll see you tonight. And I think our show is around 10:30 tonight on this channel. And this will be the first part of many shows on the topic. Take care and God bless you.